G'day, listeners. Welcome to Karate, the sailing podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer. It's that time of the week where we get to hang out with some really cool sailors. But of course, I have to share the mic with my two idiot mates. So first off, let's welcome Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
BP.
Welcome to the land of the long white cloud, coming here from Auckland. Full backdrop in one Andrew Wills' house. Thanks very much for putting me up for this week while I prepare a boat. But is also related to what we're about to talk about today. So I'm looking forward to that. Now my head is on the chopping block. So there you go.
Don't preempt anything, buddy. Let's bring in the other guy.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Well, he preempted and went back in history because that was exactly the same intro as he said last week, BP. But you're still there, mate. Like you say, in the land of the long white cloud. It's been all right for you?
Mate, it's gone together beautifully. For the listeners and for the YouTubers out there, we're putting together number 5, Far X2 number 5 here for Paul Rudling.
You've been yachting yet?
Went out yesterday for a little bit of a check. All the sails went up and all the sails came down. So that's a good thing.
Now, traditionally in Kiwi land, they're pretty much out on the harbour on a nightly basis. And what is a Saturday morning now? So Friday night rum race. Did you actually partake in a rum race and in the right manner?
We tested. We went testing over a long period.
Yes, testing rum or boat?
No rum, and basically then just made sure everything worked and everything worked beautifully, and then came back in and went to the YC and had a quiet beer.
From memory, it's generally a pretty big deal on a Friday night. How many boats were out there?
Oh well, it was only small. It was probably 10 boats or something, but it was great fun. It was great fun.
It feels like Bicey's setting you up here. Like he's leading you down a path, mate. I feel like it.
No, what I was trying to get to, I mean, it's a sexy looking boat, the X2. And there would have been a lot of people around last night.
There was lots of comments. There was lots of comments.
Yeah, lots of cards given out and stuff. So, like you could be, the X2 could become the next Stuart 34 of New Zealand.
Well, we'll see. No, look, if we can get a few down here, we'll be stoked. It's perfect conditions. It was perfect conditions, and I think the market's leaning towards this style of boat here. Well, definitely around the world. But I think that there's quite a focus on it here. It's good.
Well, speaking of focus, I'm sure we'll be doing that in a sec. So let's move on. Well, I'm going to save the rest of the wind up till the back end of this show.
Oh yeah. Okay. When it's all done and dusted, yeah.
All right, I want to bring in our guest. Okay, now before we do, I'll just give you some behind the scenes. So obviously, three of us, we got to come up with ideas for guests, and we pitch ideas at each other. And BP pitched this idea around the nutrition element, which, between me and Bryce, we actually thought was a really good idea because what you eat on a boat and you suck at sea is pretty critical, where it's sort of, we're athletes these days and going hard, there's no more roast in the oven and all that sort of stuff. It's all frozen meals and nutrition and trying to do the max you can out of your body. So when he pitched it, we thought, good idea. Yeah, we like that. Then it turns out he had a particular company in mind. Now, I will say this interview, we're not being paid. We want to talk to this company and this guy, but it just so happens the chairman of this company is bought an X2. And so, of course, we took the piss out of BP saying you can't sell X2s by promising people a go on bar karate. Okay?
I actually wrote to Julian Assange to try and get hold of the contract to see what was really written in there. WikiLeaks was going to try and get it to me. To see if it really was part of the contract. No, but all jokes aside, no, this is a pretty important part of yachting, and especially as we know when you go offshore.
Yeah, so we gave BP a heap of grief, as you would, just for a bit of fun. But then we found out our guest today is actually a former pro cyclist. So
Bicey's ears pricked up.
Yeah, and me, because I was the cycling expert for the Tour Down Under for a radio station for a few years. So I'm mad for cycling too. So we were straight into it, but we didn't tell BP that. And he's only just finding out now that we just gave him so much grief. But we're pretty interested because our guest today is one of the founders of Radix, RADIX Nutrition. And it's turned into quite a major company based out of New Zealand. He's a ex-POM, I think is the best way to describe him, former pro cyclist, a really strong time trialist from what I can work out, just doing my research, also a swimmer, and they've got a fairly talented bunch of people and doing some interesting stuff. And the chairman, his older brother, is, as we said, bought the X2, so mad for sailing as well. So it's a perfect correlation. We can find out a lot of information because nutrition is going to drive our sport, and that's the goal. Again, they're not paying us. We're doing this because we think it's going to be beneficial to our audience. So I want to welcome to our show, Mike Rudling. How are you, bud?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, Mike, I have to give you a word of warning. One of my close mates is an ex-POM who's a really strong time trialist. And he lives in Australia. We call him Aussie Mike, and his name is Mike Ridding. So if I call you Riddo at any stage instead of Ruddo or Rudlow, or Aussie Mike, you know, it's quite.
We'll call it Kiwi Mike.
Kiwi Mike.
So what background do you have in bike riding?
Here we go. Don't start. This is going to turn into a podcast with you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Go, boys.
Yeah. No. Back in the day, most pro yachties travel around with their bikes as it's something to do instead of, to the side of when you are sailing, because you can go to all these beautiful places around the world, be it Barcelona, Palma, wherever it is, but you don't get to see anything. So one good way to kind of get your head in the game is to go for a bike ride in the morning. And we saw during the Super Series, whatever it was called back in the 2010 TPs, for example, there was a lot of the TP teams would have their bikes with them and go for it's quite a peloton, up to 30 bikes, I believe, at some point in time. So that's how I personally got into it. And then I had a bit of downtime. Well, actually sailing those boats needed to lose a shitload of weight, and no better way to do that than go training like a bastard. And then I had a few mates who did triathlon, got into triathlon with that, and just spent my time on the bike. And
you did the Hawaiian triathlon, which was a pretty
yeah. But that was a byproduct, let's say. But it was a good way, and a lot of yachties would relate to this, and they still do it to this day, traveling with their bikes to go riding around town. We've ridden in some of the best places in the world, which is a good byproduct of going to yachting events.
Yeah, it's turned into a huge sport. When I entered cycling in probably 2007, it wasn't mainstream. Yeah, road cycling was this pretty niche, pretty odd sport where people wore lycra and people took
shave their legs and
yeah. And then 15 years later, it's cool. It's fantastic to see the sport get the recognition it needs. And as you say, I used to train in Mallorca, and when you get out on the roads there, they're just absolutely stunning. Doesn't get any better than that.
And even some of the pros that even Nick Heiner we spoke to last week was mentioned, post regatta, they all go for a bike. All the laser sailors were going for bike rides, and it's quite relatable. I think his exact words were they could see at the top of whatever the big climb in Mallorca is, whoever made it to the top, actually they were on top of the podium at that particular laser regatta. So it was quite relatable as well.
Yeah, that was a good point, wasn't it? Yeah. I started on my bike in 94, mate. So I'll just give my age away there. When you had your changes on the down tube, and you used to wear the denim looking nicks, the Carrera denim nicks and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
And, wow. he couldn't go on though, because they couldn't find a helmet to fit his noggin. So
that's exactly right. Once helmets came in, I was stuffed. Dear. But yeah, no, let's talk about, because you actually rode as a pro, and you were, as I said, I think I looked at the time trial, and I was, being a POM, the time trialing in the UK is a massive thing. That's the main thing for the POMs, isn't it?
It's huge in the UK. So I was a swimmer, and I did both my shoulders in, and ended up being out in the pool for a year and discovered cycling. And it was just fantastic. So I ended up leaving school a year early at 17 to pursue cycling. And in the UK, you've got road racing, you've got road and track. And I tried track a bit, but you got to start that really young to get the bike handling skills you need. And in any case, it was a bit too close to swimming for me. And road racing's just fantastic. And I got into that. And then had a bit of a talent, I guess, for time trialing.
Mm.
And in the UK, you've got 10-mile and 25-mile time trials at every club. You know, in any part of the UK, you'll be able to join into a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning time trial. And yeah, no, I loved that. It was a bit of pain.
A lot of pain. A lot of pain. Yeah, it's quite the thing, you know, like exactly as you say, like we'd go for a Tuesday night sale or a Wednesday night sale, you know, the in the UK, everyone gets out in their time trial bike and goes for it. It's something I was aware of, obviously, but you know,
it's kind of a crazy sport actually in the UK. It's you end up inevitably clubs chase the fastest course, and then so you've got British Cycling in the UK, which will manage road racing and the professional side of cycling, the sort of NSO side, and then you've got a time trialing organisation which wasn't connected to British Cycling. It's a fun organisation to do some races on, and that ends up Sunday morning 6 a.m. You're on the side of what can be almost a motorway in the UK, doing an out and back 10 or 25-mile time trial, sitting in the traffic lane so that the guys get a draft off trucks. And yeah, I mean, it shouldn't exist, but it's a lot of fun, and they get some crazy times off that. But I just used to, you know, I wanted to get to the Tour de France. I didn't get to that level. I got to kind of the bottom rung of the European professional cycling circuit, and I ended up struggling a little bit with overtraining. I got some nasty viruses and some other things, and but it's a good sport. It's a hard sport, but it teaches you a lot about yourself. And time trialing, chasing a power meter.
So obviously, you know, you've been there in the professional world of cycling. You've pushed your body as hard as you could. You would have learnt a fair bit along the way of what's required to make your body work. I guess that's where is that where this has led to, and in being Radix nutrition?
My passion when I was a kid was understanding what made a high performance athlete, and you inevitably come back to the body. And then I discovered in my teens the study of metabolism. So basically, the body's ability to generate energy, to generate work, and to perform. So our big biochemistry set that makes us who we are and what we do, and that fascinated me. So I was obsessed over that since I was probably 14. I got sent to boarding school. I have spent the last
couple of weeks with your father, with Paul, and
well, it came from there.
I can see you in him. He's very much like that, like technical.
Yeah. But it's really fascinating, and you know, the frustration that I had is science knows a lot, and a lot is known, but the people that care about applying it towards a hobby, towards a sport, towards a profession, towards competition, it's not made achievable or practical for them. So that's kind of where I like to be technically. So how do you put in the hands of people that want it something that enhances their performance and helps them get the best out of their body, either for health or athletic pursuits? So I mean, we know kind of,
Sorry, go on.
No, you
I was just saying it. We know that, you know, elite athletes get this support. You know, we know that elite athletes get
they say
everything you put. Yeah, well, a lot more than I would on a Saturday morning in Auckland. But I have had my Radix breakfast. But in saying that, you know, this whole push towards this type of nutrition is now very accessible to the general public, which is what I guess this is about. It's about you know, what Radix is trying to achieve with healthy food that is accessible to the public.
I mean, in an essence, we focus on enhancing human potential through applied nutrition. So we take everything that is known to be a nutritional ideal or a scientific ideal, and we put that into a product range that we aim for our customers to use as effortlessly as possible in their lives. So we've worked with the last 3 or 4 or teams and athletes at the last 3 or 4 Olympic Games. We've worked with some of the world's highest performing extreme athletes, World Cups, World Championships, worked in the FIA in motorsport. And we focus on just making it as attainable for someone as possible. So the breakfast that you've had this morning, that's been designed to include over 100 different nutrients. That will have gone through, it's made with all natural ingredients. Every ingredient is chosen because it provides specific nutrients towards supporting metabolism, and they're in one of, if not their most bioavailable natural form that you can find from nature. And this is quite a big challenge that we've taken on, but that's a very, very advanced product. It doesn't seem like it, but that's had thousands of hours of engineering and design that goes into that. And when you say, you know, an elite sports team or elite athlete has this done for them, nutritionists would love to work at that level, but you just can't on a one-to-one basis. So the idea for us was basically, how can you make use of everything that is known and put forward an incredibly sophisticated solution that anyone can use to up their performance? And we want to start in high performance sport and then ultimately take it through into health. So metabolism is this fantastic thing that we all exist on this spectrum or continuum of it. At one end, you have outstanding health and athletic performance, and then the other end, we have disease, which happens to us all as we age. But that's where we're focusing, is metabolism. So making that as easy for people as possible.
When you kind of, well, okay, before I ask this, where you had your fascination with how all this works, and then when was the time bomb? When did that go off in your head? I'm going to build this company, or we're going to build this company aimed at high performance athletes.
So I stopped cycling when I was 22 or 23 and was trying to discover what to do next. And I'd always been kind of pissed off when people came to me and said, asked, how do I improve this? Or what would I need to do to change that? Whatever it may be. Maybe they're an athlete, maybe they're a pre-diabetic, maybe there's someone that wants to lose weight. It can be done, but you'd see pretty quickly that it became confusing or out of reach for people, or they couldn't fit it into a busy life. And that's totally fine, but it's kind of BS that industry hasn't fixed that for people. So I think it's a right that everyone has to have that product put in front of them, and that it always frustrated me ever since a kid. That you could have someone that's just crying out for a simple solution, and the answer is simple, but there's no simple way of applying it. So when I finished cycling, that's always what I'd that focus on health and performance was always there, and I just thought, we'll have a crack at that because it should be done. And I kind of thought it's BS that no one's done it. So hopefully we can start something.
Well, this is pretty obvious as to what happens with the busy lifestyle and the busy how busy we are these days. You go down to your local supermarket and you buy some food off the shelf. Realistically, you don't know what you're eating anymore.
No.
Like even the vegetables, fruit and vegetables in the vegetable stands from those types of chains, you know, they're trying to make a profit. So they're trying to buy the cheapest food they can possibly buy, and or the mass produced food. And so food has changed. Our habits of food has changed. And this is what I wanted to talk about, you know, like not only is it for the sport people, but now for the everyday people who want to achieve things.
I think, there's, there's a lot of great people and well-intentioned people in the food industry. But if you look at the sort of industrialized food complex that we've got, probably a good thing in the 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
And then later on, we start to see food changing for entertainment. And it basically, in a lot of instances, the rise of large companies trying to profit more from their food products. And behind that, you can see pretty significant increases in diabetes, pre-diabetes, obesity. And it's pretty bad. So about 1 in 2 people have metabolic dysfunction on some scale, 1 in 4 globally are estimated to be pre-diabetic. So most people end up dying from or suffering from a non-communicable disease. So something that their body has manifested, and it's typically from lifestyle. And nutrition is one of the largest pillars that supports that. And no one's out there helping. No big food companies are really sincerely fixing it. You can go to a supplement aisle and buy a vitamin, and there's many of them, and that's great, but no one's really ensuring that the food products they put on the shelf that you're in the supermarket and inevitably forced to choose out of convenience. No one's really driving that to be nutritionally complete from natural foods. No one's sincerely sweated what science could achieve through that product, and that's leading to some pretty big issues. And I think if you were to look at the nutrition industry or food industry is one of the largest in the world, if not the largest. And to have one of the most significant increases in non-communicable diseases and the prevalency rate that we have at the moment, 1 in 4 pre-diabetic, it's kind of not okay that that's being allowed to happen, and no one's making sure that you've always got something in front of you that would steer you away from that back towards being healthy. And the other one is that people just got busy lives, but there's stuff to do that you want to do, right? And to be told by a nutritionist or a dietitian that the only way to actually eat well is to do it all yourself, buy fresh produce, do all the hard work, spend the time. It is, and it's all well intentioned, but the industry, technology should have put something in front of everyone that could give someone a viable shortcut to that if they're not in that situation. And and to your point, you don't know at a local supermarket where those products come from. Globally, there's huge issues with soil depletion, different growing standards, different farming practices, different economic pressures on farmers to produce more, spend less in doing that. And it's not a good thing. But
sorry, go on, Jay.
I was just going to contextualize this for our audience, because as sailors, we go offshore, right? And this is where most people listening this will be thinking about this, not necessarily just around the food, but if you're doing an ocean race, it could be 3 days, it could be 2 days, it could be 9 months, right? And if you're going around the world single-handed, or going across an ocean single-handed, and you're trying to, you basically want as much weight off the boat as possible. So sailors have been using sort of freeze-dried food for a while. Is this, if you were surviving off your food for 180 days or 270 days, is that a valid food source that way? Or
that would we have people that do that, and you'd typically be healthier for most people.
Healthier than what you could.
Oh yeah, immeasurably healthier than what you randomly knock into in life as you go through supermarkets and cafes and offices. Yeah, so that's if we go down that vein of performance, that's where my big passion is. So what you're looking in sailing, what you're looking for in sailing, as you are with cycling and most athletic sports, is metabolic capability or capacity. So the body, your ability to generate workload. Then the other term you want to look at is metabolic headroom, which is not common terms, but you actually touched on it earlier on when you said the top fleet sailors were also the guys that climbed fastest, right? And then I used to train with some MotoGP riders who were really fit. I mean, they could have been professional cyclists as well, because when they're operating, when they're doing their job, they need to be doing that as far within their comfort zone as possible. And for your guys or your community, when you're offshore sailing and you're vulnerable, you need to make sure that you are not near the safety limits on what your body is capable of achieving. And so you need, if you look at it visually, you'd want to make sure that what your body can do is comfortably above what you actually need it to do. And the really difficult bit is when those lines start coming down and touching, you may be placed in a situation either for fun as an athlete. And you remember in cycling, you've always got the choice to pull over to the side of the road and have a go another day, right? If it all gets a bit tough and you need to cry.
Yeah, I did that one.
Sandwagon. Jordan used to catch that quite a bit.
Yeah.
They named it after me.
But if for a lot of athletes, and then when we get into defense and military, you don't have that option. If it all goes wrong, you're going to quit at some stage or make the choice to abandon, but you still got to get home and safe.
Well, sailing's and offshore sailing, long distance sailing's in that category 100%. You don't
definitely
have a choice. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we've seen a big, people need to understand that concept, because actually how most people are conditioned to operate, they just need to have food and not be hungry, and it needs to taste good. But actually what you should have is not be hungry, food should taste good, and it should have the nutrients it needs to provide your body the nutrition it needs to perform at its best, so that you can lift your performance and also always be a long way away from your limits. And that's not where I've actually not met anyone so far who I'd say is doing that particularly well, and I'm not aware of many products on the market or any.
I'll give you, Mike.
The
nutrition strategy in the 90s for the Volvo Ocean Race, eat as many Big Macs before you go to fatten yourself up a little bit, because you're going to lose so much weight during the leg. Then it moved a lot closer to freeze-dried, which was just calorie dense, right? Just full of calories. I doubt there was an ounce of nutrition in that.
In the early days,
just a matter of getting as maximum calories into you as possible. And then of course it's been refined over time a little bit. So I'd be interested to see exactly where these ocean race guys are now. But like you say, this is now the next, well, it's just an evolution too, right? And the right science has been put into it, as opposed to being driven by profitability and marketing, essentially.
So I would say that we practically have nothing to do with that industry of freeze-dried food and that heritage. We have no interest in freeze-drying, other than it being a useful tool for us in solving our customers' nutrition challenges wherever they are. So we're very good at freeze-drying, but we'd abandon it tomorrow for something better if we found it. But it is a very good process. So when we make a meal or a food product, to answer that, what we set out to do, you've got to turn, in studying metabolism, we had to turn that into essentially a design challenge or an engineering problem. So what does the body need? And as you work your way through the layers, you know it typically, or it should have, natural food, because in a natural product, any one food, broccoli, can have thousands of trace nutrients in it, that some of them have a known beneficial role in the body. Many of them are unstudied. There's also often in foods things we call anti-nutrients that can either be universally bad for the body or can block the uptake of other nutrients. But you come down into that layer, and at that layer we're studying, I think it's about 118 or 120 different design metrics, from nutrients, certain characteristics such as glycemic index, glycemic load, and protein quality. So we come down into that layer. And then we use a computational analysis to design our products across 118, 120 different nutrient metrics, so that they're nutritionally complete in 2000 calories. So if someone has 2000 calories of our food, to answer your question, you've got all the nutrients you need to cover your bases to a pretty unparalleled level, exclusively from natural food. Now, when you're performing in those situations, you're burning a lot more energy than that. And that's an issue. You have an energy demand. And we look at it in calories, although the body doesn't really, the calories not a great metric for that, but we use it. But think of it in this way, which is a bit that really fascinated me when I was younger. Your body has got to convert a unit of food, whether it be a protein, carbohydrate, or fat. It's got to digest that. It's got to pull it through the bloodstream, get it into a cell, get it into a mitochondria, and turn that into ATP. ATP then goes to your muscles and is essentially the fuel source for the human body. So you've got to, if you think like we're tuning an engine, how much work can you get out of that mitochondria? How much energy can it generate? How healthy can it be? No one thinks about food like that in terms of the products that we put in your hands. So that's the difference between someone having a really challenging day in what they're doing, or it being a lot more comfortable. And your
That's
example,
just put simply, and that is a real simple way of putting it.
and it's really complicated, but
Yes.
it is also that simple.
Yes.
So that no one looks at food products like that, and it's BS, because they should, because the definition of food is a nutritive substance that goes towards supporting your metabolism. And yet when people design a food product, they think, does it taste good? Is it yummy? Does it have a cute sounding name? You know, you're going to have a Volvo Ocean Racer or whoever in the middle of the ocean having a nice pasta bolognese.
Oh, turkey tetrazzini. Beautiful.
You should have that, but like, imagine if your life raft was just designed by someone, like, what's the prettiest life raft we can make, right? It's not what you want when you need it. Like,
it's a nice
maybe
colour.
it should also look at, and maybe it should have that. It's cool, but it's function. And actually what we see in food, you can have both, but you sure
cool.
as shit shouldn't just have one.
I love that analogy. That was a good one.
Good
but
one.
that's
Good analogy.
what
Good analogy.
what we studied. And then the reason we like sport, to understand, to quote someone, to understand a poor metabolism, you first got to understand a high performing metabolism. So what does that machinery look like when it performs well? Because once it starts to break, it gets extremely complicated. It can become dysfunctional in so many different ways. So athletes, perhaps like motorsport or sailing, just a pure expression of how well can that function. And then you're simply just getting everyone back towards that ideal. So I probably wandered off a bit, but that's kind of how we look at it.
Perfect.
Hey, what I just want to mention though, Mike, there has been a visionary within the sailing community over the years though, in regards to nutrition, and a lot of our listeners would know who that is, and that's Anthony Knocker. And why we laugh, his outlook is, especially doing a Sydney Hobart or something like that, he'll just slide a few steaks into the
Front pocket
pockets of his weather gear,
or
sitting on the rail,
he looked at his
just
side
nibbling on a
pocket,
bit of steak, pulling out a lamb chop, and that'll get him through for the next couple of days.
Sounds like a hard man.
He's a beauty. Well, I guess you could say the evolution, just touching on what you said a second ago, Bryce, the evolution of offshore sailing, particularly at a club level, which is where I want people to sort of start thinking about this sort of stuff. The evolution was in the old days, you'd freeze some spaghetti bolognese and have that for a few days, you know. So a 3-day-old spaghetti bolognese, although it seemed to quell desires of discomfort on the rail, we know that it obviously wasn't that good for you. Well, then there was
actually, it's even goes even worse than that. And let's talk about a 24-hour race, Adelaide to Port Lincoln, for example. The easy thing is to walk down the aisle, grab a whole heap of lollies, right? You might, if you're lucky, might get some sort of something with some decent nutrition in it. If not, there's just a bag of lollies that get passed down the rail for a massive sugar hit.
I tell you how another way you could look at that. People think about nutrition when the gun starts, right? Or when your event starts.
Yeah.
But let's look at, I challenge that people actually don't think of it like that if they give it a second's thought. But if you're an athlete going into a bike race, you've trained for months or years for that race, right? You can't just decide you're going to be a cyclist tomorrow, turn up to a time trial, get on a bike and give it a great shot, right?
Yeah.
No.
But when people think about their nutrition, how far in advance of the event do they really start to consider it? So we have that window maybe the night before, or maybe a few days before, or that example, we have a load of Big Macs. But if you look at it from a metabolic standpoint, what's your health status for the preceding 6 months? How capable is your body of generating work output, right? So if someone had a crap diet, always drinking alcohol, always eating the wrong foods, etc., you're kind of turning up to the start line with a really low functioning piece of machinery in your body. You can no longer improve that once the events start. You can only mitigate any loss of further performance capability, right? And when we work with some groups, say the military, who might be going in, pretend that they're going into a certain mission that's going to be 6 to 10 days, right? You want to make sure that when they get to that, they have, they're in the best state possible to perform. They're going to want to have slept well, because getting into a sleep deficit is a one-way trip, and it's really hard to turn yourself out of that. They're going to want to have eaten well and followed a decent nutrition schedule for at least a month. Because when they go into that, it's not how they perform on day 1 or 2. It's what they can do on day 8 or 10 when it might really matter, which is how you might want to look at a regatta, or it's how cyclists would look at stage race. You can't win the Tour de France in the first few days, typically. But there's probably a mountaintop finish halfway through it, or 3/4 of the way through it, where the race has started to be defined, right? So how do you carry the best metabolic workload capability into an event? And when you start talking about huge sailing events, right, which it's on a boat, it means something to you guys, but to the human body that doesn't know what sailing is, it's just had weeks or months of being really knocked around, right? You're sleep deprived, you're not giving the body the nutrients it needs. You may be giving it the fuel it needs, but in order to create that, in order to metabolize that, your body needs a lot of additional vitamins and minerals and so many other nutrients to run the enzymatic processes that would actually convert those dietary nutrients into something the body can run. That's a sort of bank balance that you've got to keep topping up. If you get deficient there, it can actually no longer run the process that turns your fuel source into a nutrient that the body can use. So you want to look at it as just all of these trace micronutrients that you have to keep topped up. And that's where we get excited, but you guys just shouldn't have to think about it. You should just be able to reach for a product that you eat because it tastes good, and it's just all done for you, as you have in so many other industries. But you don't have it in food, which is kind of ridiculous. And the nutrition industry as it stands today will give you an energy bar just designed around a couple of different bits of nutrition science, and there's not much behind an energy bar. But it doesn't consider anything else. So metabolism is totally uncracked by science. It's phenomenally complex.
Oh, I'd give it a bit of credit, because the opposite end of the scale, if someone's going away for a big weekend with the boys, you don't want to go in just cold turkey, right? You got to get yourself half piss fit.
It's that thing. Everybody's an athlete, right? To each their own sport.
I guess what I'd like to sort of touch on is
you'd be a multi-sporter if you add that to your yeah.
I'd like to touch on something that's potentially what you're experiencing. You have to say you're cutting edge with what you're doing. There's no question with the ingredients and the focus on performance and all that stuff. Do you feel like you're banging your head against the wall a little bit to get this out there, to get this information out there? Is it something that you're really struggling with?
So 10 years has led up to this.
Yeah.
And it's been a really long to being here with you guys now.
Yeah, that's fair.
But my whole life has led up to this point, you could say. You probably will. But when we started out, because I was a sort of frustrated ex-cyclist that thought this is all bullshit and it shouldn't be, how do you fix it? And you go and meet a load of professionals and you come across as a well-intentioned person that's trying to do something, and if it hasn't been done, it probably can't be done. And that's been many years of you meet hundreds of people. Some are really supportive, some are negative, some say it can't be done, some say if you did it, who would care or who would want it? And eventually you just make your way through that one by one, and you find your pockets of support, and you get to it. And I probably can't say who I met with yesterday, but hopefully we get into some partnerships that start to become known. But I sat in a room yesterday with a few people in a great New Zealand sport that we've gotten it to a point that they can understand the application of what we can do to support their athletes and organization, and they're so excited. And we couldn't have done that 5 years ago.
The New Zealand badminton team, the Blackhawks.
That used to be their name. It used to be their name.
But it's a long road. So it gets a lot easier, but it's been really difficult. So
I'd say, Mike, and I kind of saw it in the triathlon days. Like, there's people that, and you probably see it more in that bunch of athletes. There's a lot of people that take this seriously.
Yeah.
But then you start find yourself crapping on about nutrition to the average Joe. They couldn't care less.
No interest.
No, absolutely.
But they will at some stage, which is pretty sad when they. Yeah, and that's one lesson. So I like high performance sport because it's fun, but the sad side of again of metabolism is when someone walks into a doctor's office at 50 and finds out that they've going to walk out with a life-changing diagnosis that could be changed from that day forwards, but they've got to turn around 20, 30 years of pretty unhealthy habits, and they're lost and they don't know how to start. They don't really know what would be involved in doing it. And you kind of come off the edge of the map, right? You found out that your life's got to change. You're pre-diabetic, or you're probably a few weeks away from having to formally become type 2 diabetic, for example. And how do you get that person as much help as possible? To give them the strongest intervention that's possible, and there's not much there for nutrition at the moment. And you can buy an iPhone and immediately be at the forefront of the communications industry with one of the most advanced pieces of consumer technology ever made. And the nutrition side of that is you can turn up to the grocery aisle at your local supermarket, right? And it's kind of not flash that's where we've ended up with, but it's about to change. But that was the frustration that I had, is that someone should have done better than that before, and we wanted to see if we could do that. It's been
before this, it was all about money. We know that the whole industry was about maximizing return.
A lot of people will have tried, and you were not the first, but like, it's a really hard wall to get through. And it's not so easy. And we've just launched the 9th generation of our products. Each generation of products that we do, we might go through 50 to 100 design iterations. We'll be right the way from our supply chain manufacturing processes, nutritional design, flavor design, how that integrates. So DFM, you're designing it for manufacturing between the plant, the product, consumer, just a shitload of work. There's a lot behind it for someone to just pick up a silver packet and take it out on the boat. But,
just using that terminology, the average punter wouldn't, just the word design, right? In food nutrition products, people wouldn't even think what goes into it, right?
We designed RNA, which for your listeners, imagine it as a wheel broken up into 120 different segments of nutritional characteristics, and all coming together to represent a complete diet. And before that, we used to meet with people and say, how do you define a nutritionally complete diet? And it should have enough vitamins, or maybe it's got enough of this, or maybe it's got enough protein. And pretty quickly, there's no way that anyone universally defines what a nutritionally complete diet is. And that was such a shitter to discover that. That's a lot of work. And so we had to come up with something because we needed a design tool. And we stuck all of that together in a pretty big engineering, for us, a design challenge. It's gone for a couple of years, and that's our design tool. And you can read about it online, and we'll talk about it with anyone. But that's probably, in order to build that, we've probably gone through 3,000 to 5,000 different design considerations on nutrients. We've looked across most published research institutes around the world and what they would say is the right amount of a nutrient. And then we put that through a massive, well, I say massive, it's not that big, but a machine learning process to try and get the best design fit around diet. It's really hard. And we get better at it, and it's a really fun journey to go down. But that was, people have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating. But
Right.
I mean, if someone asks, they can learn. But I mean, you shouldn't have to in order to fix the nutrition component of your life, or get on with a hobby or a sport you guys love. But it's fun.
I got to say, Mike, I didn't expect to come to this interview and get a whole new way of thinking about something, and it's happened twice so far in this interview. You've brought up processes and ideas that have completely I hadn't even considered, which is so it's
Unusual for Jordan, because pretty much he's considered everything.
But I do wish
and
my
knows
wife,
everything.
I do wish my wife had been on this interview, because she lives like the most perfect life almost. She was a former pro athlete, and she's also an optometrist, and I've learned so much about diabetes and how being a diabetic, yep, you get blind, you lose your legs, you lose your appendages, the consequences of having an unhealthy diet, and it's been railed into me. And so the question then I want to ask is, she's actually, because she was so fit, her body metabolizes carbohydrates into, I think, insulin a lot quicker than normal people. So she has to live on a keto diet. What about people that have specialist dietary requirements that mean they can't have certain elements of the whatever, I guess is it the nutrition index, the RNA index? Like, you have to wait.
Okay,
yourself?
so that's another one that when you go and consider that, we have a load of design limitations as well. So we want our products, by and large, our entire product range is gluten-free. Yeah, you've asked a big question there. So you've got what you want to achieve. You've got your material or ingredient limitations, and then you've got some limitations around certain nutrient types, and there's a heap within that we use. But people are different. The good news is that if you can get people back to a generally healthy lifestyle, nutrition, lifestyle habits, so activity levels and sleep, the body, biology as a whole, but particularly the human body, is incredibly capable of getting itself back into a healthy state if people just stop smashing it with some bad habits. It's phenomenally capable. So as different as people may be, underlying that is the ability for people to get back to a where the body would like to be. And there's a term for that I can't remember at the moment, but some people are different. At more of the advanced user end of the spectrum. So you mentioned that your wife's quite a capable athlete. She probably understands a lot about her diet and her lifestyle and what a good day feels like and where she should be. Not many people have that. One of the interesting things, if someone uses our product for, say, 2 or 3 days continuously, which sounds a bit hardcore, but you can, because it's just representing an idealized diet. So if you had 2,000 calories of our food a day, to put it into layman's terms, you'd have about 6 servings of vegetables a day. You'd have 1 to 1.5 servings of fruit a day. You'd have over 100 grams of protein, about 165 grams of carbohydrate in our balanced range, and then we do a keto range that's will get you at about between 5 to 8% net carbohydrates across a day. People that don't understand what any of that means start to feel better. They start to sleep better. They start to wake up a lot clearer headed. They start to not have any energy lapses during the day. Their afternoon productivity's up. Even that funny thing to talk about, but we get people coming to us saying their bowel movements have just never been that good before. It's a really big thing. Your gastrointestinal tract is a really big deal. It's the first time in their life they've actually experienced what good nutrition feels like. And I think the problem is, you know, it may be another silly example, but if you were going to pay a lot of money for a car, you'd want to test drive it, right?
Yep.
You'd want it, and if it's all, you know, what you're after and it's lined up well, you'll sit in that, you'll go out for a drive and you'll come back and you'll be sold on it. That is what you want. And yet for a lot of people, nutrition is just a pain in the ass. It's a load of work. I can't eat a lot of the foods that they want to. And why would they bother? Because there's no upside that they've ever experienced or is tangible. But if you can try a good diet for a week, and you can start to see the benefits that it brings to your life at whatever age, whether you're a young athlete, whether you're a parent struggling to fit a career in around lifestyle, your kids. Once you can feel it, the desire to achieve it goes up, and it becomes a lot more worthwhile, right? But it's not easily felt for most people with nutrition. So you'd feel a difference on our products. And we, to bring it back down to the athlete side of it, we might have someone in the military that takes our product away for a couple of weeks, and afterwards they are never going away without it again, because they just significantly felt better. And the military have actually been one of the best groups to work with, because the repercussions are so high. It's not a game for those men and women, right? They really care, and they're actually probably closer to you guys, that when you're offshore, if it all goes wrong, you're kind of by yourself for a while. And when you get to an Olympic athlete, it's just a game at the end of the day, although it's very important to them. But when it really matters, it's a very cool group of people to talk to. So I've never done any ocean racing or offshore stuff, but you
got a
pretty
boat.
vulnerable.
Got a boat now?
Yeah, you'll be
No
going around New
excuse.
Zealand.
Yeah. No excuse.
No, but
You
to
know, I
sum
feel
it up,
better
okay,
just talking about it.
Yeah, no, it's this. Well, I feel like we could have another 2 hours of this, no problem. But obviously we can't. But I mean, to sum it up, Mike, how would you pitch this, if you like, to the club sailor, not the professional sailors? How would you pitch this to? How would you pitch this to the everyday person who likes to go offshore yacht racing? You know, what would you say to them in terms of, oh, look, I'm going to make some spaghetti bolognese? No, mate, just have this, or pre-plan a week out and get this sorted.
For taking it out on the boat.
Yeah.
Well, give me a bit more background. What sort of boat? What have we got on that?
Let's say we're a
Bar X2.
Bar X2 double-handed.
The chairman of
words,
Radix, he's about to
In
go
other
around
words, you and
New
your
Zealand.
father. You and your father. What are you going to
Got
prepare?
a
What are
one
you gonna
burner
say?
stove.
That's actually a pretty interesting one. So I realized that cooking on a boat is a pretty dangerous thing.
And hard.
And hard.
Yeah.
And nothing like burning your house down.
When you're in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, it means a lot. So I mean, the simplest way that you can look at the ecosystem of products that we've got breakfast, lunch, and dinners, which should just give you a meal that, if you turn to that, will be the most nutritious, fastest thing that you can eat. So we can, whether you're at home, whether you're on a boat, you can prepare one of those meals in 30 seconds. Tear off a top, pour in water, you got a meal. It's that fast. So yeah, sorry, it's a
Well, that's
it's an
probably
interesting-
That's it.
solution that
That's
we're
it.
using.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking. I was talking to someone the other week around young sailors getting down to a yacht club. You know, and you've got a parent that's rushing around a kid to get to a regatta, to get to training, and they're struggling to feed their kids. Their kids are going out on the water, coming back. There's not much to eat. All that they've got is unhealthy food to eat.
Yeah, hot chips, hot dog. Sure.
Hot dog,
Yeah, which is kind of fun, but like shit, if that's what you're actually eating because it's the only food that's available, that's
Not
really
gonna
bad.
cook.
Yeah, but it's common, right? Because and well intentioned, what else can you do? But in that instance, in 30 seconds, you can put a healthy meal in someone's hand. It makes a really big difference. And so funny, when we set out to start Radix, we had 3 pillars, which was nutritional quality, enjoyment, and convenience. And we wondered, could you create the world's most nutritionally dense diet, have it really enjoyable, and have any human use it on the planet? So whether that's someone in their kitchen, whether that's an athlete at the Tokyo Games winning a gold medal, or whether it's the most remote athlete in the world, someone rowing from Cape Horn, from New Zealand to Cape Horn, single-handed solo for 154 days. And then we challenged ourselves, well, what do you really mean by convenient? Well, let's look at the world's some really unhealthy food like fast food. Average time in a line might be 1.5 minutes queuing up to get to the till, and then you're waiting for 5 minutes. So we want to give someone the most nutritionally dense food technically possible that tastes great in less than the time that it takes them to queue up at McDonald's. That would kind of be a way of defining that you've cracked it. And I think we've done that. We've worked with everyone from, I don't know how many gold medals we've been a part of, or privileged enough to be a part of winning now. We've had people use this in some of the most remote settings in the world. We had a 70-year-old row from New Zealand to Cape Horn just using our products for 154 days. Doesn't know a lot about nutrition. He got off the boat after an incredibly hard event. You can only imagine this is like a 6-7 meter single-handed rowing boat across the Southern Ocean. Hadn't lost any muscle mass, really. Hadn't lost any weight. And he'd never experienced anything like that. Normally he'd get off an event like that and just be wrecked as he had to recover for 6 months. Yeah. And he got off it feeling great. So
thought, fuck it, while I'm here, I'll walk up the Himalayas.
He's done that as well. Yeah, he's a remarkable chap. But yeah, so there you go. Yeah.
Okay. We're sort of out of time, but I do have to give you one scenario that that's critical to our sport. Particularly, you know, you're sponsoring the Australian sailing team, I've noticed now. So a scenario that's critical in the dinghy side and a lot of sailors is, and Bicey alluded to it before, sometimes we have to lose weight to sail a boat, and then other times we have to put on weight. So sailing is all about weight. You got to, when you're sailing one design boats, you've got to nail a certain weight. So I'm currently losing 12 kilos.
I would challenge you that is power to weight, capability to weight. So you're thinking, people typically think fat or muscle mass, but it's kind of almost all athletes always want power to weight. You need to be.
We've got our power,
but in like a helmsman of a 470 needs to weigh between 65 and 68 kilograms, or right?
If you're steering a laser, you want to be between 82 and 84 kilograms.
And we have some classes where you've got weight limits. So the three of you have to add up to a certain weight limit. And most of the time, you'll go into that 10 kilos above.
Yeah.
So this is part of our sport. It's the cultural element of our sport. It's maybe something we can come back to, but you know, can I ask a simple question? Is it just as simple as so we're using Radix, right? Is it as simple as eating more or less?
Losing or gaining weight typically come around energy balance. So if you want to lose weight, you need to run at an energy deficit. If you want to gain weight, I'd be less interested in running an energy excess, but you're typically looking at building muscle mass, which is going to up your ability to generate physical workload. So yeah, eating more, eating less would normally do it. But the thing you got to watch out for, when most people cut weight, they reduce the quality of their diet. And you almost always reduce your body's ability to create workload, which is ultimately what you want as an athlete, whether it be cognitive or physical.
So exactly why I asked the question, because because we do that throughout our sport. It's endemic in our sport. Moving our weight around is critical.
Well, it's critical and ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like we saw it at the weigh-in for the Etchells. One of my colleagues, name not to be mentioned, but we went on a little dip, and oh mate, not only physically does it harm you, but mentally as well. Like you shouldn't. You don't want to lose weight cycling or doing it in sort of a short time frame is best to be avoided, right? So if you're gaining weight insidiously over time to get to an event, then you need to lose it. You're probably not doing something right. Weight gain or weight loss is a symptom that should be considered a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this will turn into a big discussion. I can guarantee it because
I think we've got more on this.
Yeah.
Hey, Brett, you asked a question earlier on about the X2 and what we should eat on that. And one thing that I'll get in trouble if I don't mention, our Ultra, which is our 800 calorie range, was developed for special forces soldiers initially. And the breakfasts in that give a nutritionally complete meal with cold water if you need it. So that was initially foreseen to be a low temperature or cold water ration pack. You can add cold water to it, ziplock it, store it for a period of time, minutes to hours, not days. And you'll have something that tastes amazing when you want it, and you can just dip into it, have a few spoonfuls and put it back. But just that is probably if you're in a situation where you don't have readily access to food on an ongoing basis, it might be 6 hours later when you get the next chance to feed. The Ultra range would, particularly on our breakfast, would be outstanding for that. And we've had guys that have lived off that for days.
I think I'm into the Mexican chili. That's going to be me.
Oh, you're looking on the website. Good on you, mate. Well, I can tell you.
I'm heading up to Snowy's this morning.
So the way our flavors work, the original range, which is nutritionally balanced for most people, it's what your Olympians would be using. The keto range is designed to optimize for nutrient density with minimized carbohydrates. Both of those are available in 400 and 600 calories. And then the Ultra range is designed to be for someone that's burning a lot more energy. But to put it simply, flavors are the same across all of them. So you can pick and match what macronutrient profile you're after. Once you know you love Mexican chili, you can just pick any Mexican chili and it'll be as close to that mark as possible.
Fascinating.
I got to say, I wasn't joking when I had the mixed berry for breakfast. I did have the mixed berry 800 range this morning. So I'm sitting here.
Oh, mate, you're on fire today. Yep.
I'm on fire.
You're about to set the world on fire. You going yachting today?
Yep, going yachting. Anyway.
So our version 9 breakfast, Brett, I'll get you some. They won't be at a retailer yet, but they will be in the coming weeks. But we've got 7 flavors in total and they taste phenomenal. But that, if you start your day with that or take those away sailing, well, they're probably one of the best things you could get as you come off the water. Anyway, have fun with them.
All right, I know we're pretty short on time. Might be in NZ. Just come over for a little trip. If I'm coming to your house, Mike, do we just get a couple of silver packets in front of us for dinner?
We can do that if you like. If you
brings a whole new meaning, doesn't it? To come over for dinner and you come over and there's all the packets sitting there on the table.
I love it. I love it.
Say though, it's not bad. And look, mate, thanks so much for coming on. I know that there is so much more, but I think the point I wanted to bring up with our listeners in particular is that this product is available right now, and it will help your sailing. It'll help your sailing.
Yeah.
And I think people need to take it more seriously. I still know that, people go, oh, I've got my bolognese, or I've got my, chicken stew, or I've got this and that, which is fine. But like, I think if you wanted to be a little bit more serious with your offshore racing, particularly at club level, where you're trying to get more out of yourself, I think it's a really exciting thing to start looking at.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to try it, they can just buy online, and we can ship around the world.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we're paying for the X2 now. I love it though, mate. Absolutely blew my mind. I didn't expect that, so I appreciate you taking the time to chat to us. I suspect we'll probably chat some more at some stage in the future. But good on you, having
thank you.
Changing the world.
Yeah, we got a great team.
Yeah, congratulations.
Mate.
Good on you, Mike. Well done.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Enjoy some yachting. Well, I've got to tell you, boys, I'm not sure how you can actually do the emoji of mind blown on a podcast, but mate, first things first, I'm down to Snowy's. I'm loading up on Radix equipment. I'm going to give this a real life trial of the Radix kit and see how it goes. I've found my local stockist, but it blew my mind. BP, you went on, but straight after we spoke to Mike, myself and Jordan, we stayed on the just the chat for a little bit. And this is stuff that we've kind of grown up and known a little bit about, but not enough about, right? And now it's actually in the mainstream, which is super cool. So this is it's an absolute game changer, and especially for everything from high performance athletes all the way down to
every day.
Sailors. Bloody
every
good.
day. Well, this is something that I sort of wanted to try and get the message out, is that you can have access to this type of nutrition at club level, it doesn't have to be professional athletes. And this is where, that's the point we were making. And if you listen to Mike, he's trying to say, well, there's no difference to opening a thing of Radix up compared to having a McDonald's burger. It's the same.
Well, the only difference is it's a little bit boring. So when I go to the pub for a Tuesday night with me mates,
I can just
and I'm
imagine
breaking out some Radix, I'm asking for 225 milliliters of boiling water.
Or your mates are getting a Big Mac, large family meal, whatever you want to call it. But seriously speaking, I think that it's really important that that we try and think about this. It's changing the game. You're right, and it's cool to think about some of the things he said, and the analogies, if you like. That was what was. I think that's what.
Mate, he's like the king of analogies. We might bring Mike on as just to
Analogist.
The analogist.
Which is analogous to a good time for us. Righto. Cool. No, it was great fun. Completely a man that thinks about things completely differently, and he was right. No one has really thought of nutrition in the same way, and it's great to see. So yeah, I hope our listeners enjoyed that one. Good on you, BP, for pushing us on that. Good on you.
It wasn't me. It was just something I really believe in. I think it's cool.
Right,
and by the sounds of it, you're definitely in a bar right now, so you're sticking right to the Radix.
Onto the continuity. BP suddenly in a bar. Dear.
No, I'm in a massage chair.
No, good. Don't fall asleep. Listener, if you hear a little snooze on the way through, BP's fallen asleep in his massage chair. Viewer, you can see it.
Yeah.
Righto. Other news, club events, boys. Should we talk about those?
Yes, let's.
Okay. First one I wanted to bring up is, of course, I spent some time in Ireland a while ago. Had an absolute ball with the Irish. We've been raving about the Cape 31s. I think we all love those. I just noticed that the Irish Nationals have been confirmed for Volvo's Dunleary near Dublin regatta, July 6th. Now, do you like how I pronounced that? Have you guys got the run sheet?
Yeah, I saw the run sheet. You actually reminded yourself how to pronounce it.
I thought it was a bit Australian. I thought you could add a bit more Irish to it.
Dunleary.
Oh,
that's the French pronunciation of it.
Yeah. Anyway, for that's Irish Nationals for the Cape 31s. We're interested in the Cape 31s 100%. We're happy to go for a yacht if anyone's keen, but we will try and do a bit more on the Cape 31s. The other one we had the women's collegiate champs, I think, in the US. They, where they do this intercollegiate, they had their national champs on. I think it was at Kings Point. They get those old beta 420s out and they teams race to the death.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not sure I've got the final results, but it's just been a one and run, and I'm pretty certain it was Stanford that's won it over Yale and Boston College and Cornell and Bowdoin.
Yeah, there's a couple of big names there, my friend.
Yeah, Harvard and Dartmouth and MIT and Tulane.
I was going to say, how did MIT go? MIT Silicon Valley.
The engineers got 8. They got good nicknames, though. They got the Cardinal, the Bulldogs, the Eagles, the Big Red. There we go.
Big Red. Oh, we should actually tap into what their team songs are.
Oh.
They'd be all over that, the Seppos, for sure.
Yeah,
I love that sort of stuff. I wonder if they actually have like the big band like they do at the college football games for their sailing events.
And the cheerleaders.
Got old mate on the sousaphone, someone on the big bass drum.
Cool. Anything else for you guys there?
Nothing from our side here. Well, obviously in Oz. Well, apart from just the mention of the Gold Coast Etchells event going on.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right
that's
now,
on right
we
now.
haven't
Yeah.
got the last day's results in. Last I saw was Mark Roberts, Fu Manchu 2-4, whatever. 4. They were top of the leaderboard. Your old boat, Dunny, was sitting in about 5th there, BP.
It's okay, not a bad result.
Yep. But yeah, we'll have to stand by on the final result. But I think it was looking a bit dodge out there today.
Yeah, light winds, very light winds. Glamour day, low, very little wind.
At time of recording.
Direct offshore yesterday, and then slight light southeast, and she windy. Like, so where they're sailing from is about 2 hours drive away from me at the moment. But you can
Not much.
You
extrapolate.
didn't go down as a roving reporter.
Oh, I nearly did go down because Sanctuary Cove's on as well.
Yes,
And
yeah.
As I said to you just before we dialed in, I've got the permission from the bride.
Correct. Now, actually, just talk us through it. How'd this come about, my friend?
Well, like I love my sailing, obviously. And every day I'm looking at boats for sale. Like I could be a boat broker because I reckon I could tell you everything. Like I'm always looking for a boat for sale. And
30-35, by the way, if anyone's out there, a couple of cats, if you don't mind.
That's a power boat. No one cares. Anyway, it's just a glamour day here, right? And I said to the bride, she's going, oh, what do you want to do? And I said, you know what? I just want to go out in a boat. Let's just go and cruise out there. And she's going, all right, well, let's just buy a boat. We should have one.
No.
So I said, I wish Brett's X2s had a bit of a com down below them, and that'd be the perfect toy. But
Oh, it has. It's got 4 pipe cots.
4 pipe cots there.
Yeah, but we're talking about a normal sized human being here. So
anyway,
can we convert it into 2, like just one super long pipe cot?
Well, one is super long.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you'll be right. One's 2 meters. It's perfect.
Perfect. Cool. Anyway, it's
All
glamour day here. But we'll move on. Not about us. Jack Lloyd, listener of the week, boys. I want to nominate Phil Shearer. He came in late last week. Oh, what's going on there?
Yeah, you might have to hit a little bit of mutage there, BP. Just while the chef fires up the knife at the carvery.
What's going on?
It's not actually a disaster, it's just an emergency thing.
Don't worry, this is an emergency. Sounds like I need to go to the toilet again.
Just for the listeners, I'm not actually in a very normal situation here, and I've just been told it's an emergency.
It's a civil defence test.
Civil defence test.
Okay.
Oh, New Zealand civil defence. What
it-
do you do? Get out and throw stones at people? What's the civil defence?
I thought something's happened with your massage chair, mate.
Yeah, I thought my massage chair was starting to lose it.
Give it a little tickle.
We're all good. Keep rolling through, and if anything happens, I'll let you know. Or if I just go silent.
If you just go mute, that'd be
The Navy loading into a 6 meter rib and getting their slingshots ready, are they?
Well, that's half of the NZ Navy fleet.
Yeah, that's it. Very cheeky. So Phil sent in. Here's a discussion around the America's Cup boats, right? So he enjoyed listening to the Australian team for the women's series in the America's Cup, and he wishes them all the best and hope they achieve a nice second place right behind the Kiwis. Only fair after I just did the jokes about the Kiwis, that Kiwi does it back to us. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I was taking nothing away from the women involved or the series. I feel it's a bit of a cop-out by the organisers, as there are no women on board the big boats. If they are serious about it, they should have one side for women and the other side for men.
Oh,
that would be 50-50.
Yes,
Interesting.
I see what you're laying down here.
Yes. Geez, there'd be some tactical decisions made there. Like 50-50, one side women, one side men. It's a good idea.
Don't mind it.
No.
Don't mind it at all. Definitely worth a merchandise pack, that one.
Like it.
Well, that was the only one that I really wanted to bring up. I mean, we got a few other good ones, but a lot of it we've touched on before. But well done, Phil. The Kiwi finally doing something good.
Careful.
Apart from your wife marrying you.
It's hot time with Bike.
Right, today's all about numbers, man.
Oh,
Yes.
so much.
What shall I kick it off with?
Well, the obvious.
No, well, let's actually go Soul GP season 3 in numbers to start with. All right. So, this is the ultimate way to promote is put out an infographic on everything that's happened. And Soul GP season 3 top speed 99.94 kilometers an hour.
Right.
That's what they had, 117.2 million broadcast audience.
117 million.
Correct.
That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
Compared to 1 million, we're all over it.
800 global broadcast hours.
That's
Now, this one, Jordan, you spoke to us about this one. 30,000 data points per second per F50. So 48 billion data points per day. Yeah, that's up there. That's up there. What else did I see? 1.5 million social followers. I mean, yeah, get on board, Sail GP. We're probably not far off that. 1.1 billion. Yeah, get on board. Impressions, that is. Now, the last one I don't mind checking out is the Inspire participants.
Oh, yep.
Almost 15,000. They had an aim of getting to 10,000. Almost 14,782.
Congratulations.
So that is that's actually giving back right there. So well done to Sail GP there. Let's see where it goes. How many events? We've all heard the 12, 15 events about to kind of come out of the woodwork. 12 are scheduled for Sail season 4. Let's see where it really goes. So we can to get it in the mainstream.
Just to give you one more number, 99.94, which that's Don Bradman's cricket average, batting average.
It's not just off the top of my head.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
No, you're right. Correct.
For one. And then translate that into knots. That's 53.96 knots off the top of my head.
Yeah. And what's that relate to?
Which is Steve Warren's average.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Steve Warren's in 2007.
No, so 54 knots. Pretty good. That's on the big turn down on Mark 1.
Listeners, they're Australian cricketers, by the way.
Oh yeah, the Don Bradman. He's People
mate, be careful about talking about cricket over there, mate, in the land of the long white
Yeah,
cloud. Do not mention the underarm situation.
Yeah.
Now, okay, next one, boys, is of course, the Ocean Race 24-hour record. Don't know where I'm looking. People are high-fiving each other. They're missing each other's hands, poking each other in the eye. It's all over the joint. One, you get 11th hour. The Seppos are just chest pumping it like you wouldn't believe.
Yep.
Next thing, you've got the wholesome PRB.
Yep.
And the Frenchies are just loving, well, French and English for that matter, given the crew on board. And I have seen this. Haven't gone into that one. Maybe cheese and crackers.
Cheese and crackers and a cigar.
And a cigar in the they hot boxed the cockpit.
All 4 of them.
And then coming through with the late numbers at 641 point something miles.
That's nuts.
Militia, our mates on Militia. And
I've
got to say, so what I took from this, and I'm looking at the Ocean Race website now, and you look at the latest news, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 little news articles about the record. You've got the 11th hour, and it's all, we're trying our hardest, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. You've got wholesome PRB. Yes, it's a great thing to have. We didn't really go out there. It's flat water. We're all looking towards the end. And then you go to Militia, just cheering their heads off, just loving life. Like it's the best thing. Boris has had a couple of attempts at this, and it's the best thing he could imagine. And they're celebrating like they have won the Ocean Race, which you've got to go for it. Absolutely. So I think the best team wins it in that regard. Gets the record at 641.
600. I thought 642 was good. 641 is, that's getting there.
Now, what I'm going to say on that, though, it's a pity they couldn't see anything, though. Just looking out the back. Woo!
Imagine if
Woo! Another rooster tail.
so
There was a couple of social network feedbacks about Comanche doing it. You know, there was a couple of people saying, "Oh yeah, but they had autopilot." So here we go.
oh, okay.
No.
Right, so for the numbers, so the 65s on the Ocean Race, Axel Nobel had the record at 602 miles. And
could have been
then,
620 if Simeon didn't drive.
Yes, exactly.
So I can't wait till we get him on.
Comanche had the outright monohull record at 618. So when 11th hour got the past 618, that was at 620. That's our overall outright record. Then Wholesome came past and did the 640.9. And then as Bicey said, Boris and the team at 641.08. So that's a new record, just averaging for 24 hours, just over 26.7 knots.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's insane. Now, the other thing to take from note of that is that we actually forecasted this.
Here.
We did. I can't remember.
Several occasions.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it was
definitely the most recent was last week. And prior to that was
Week before.
Was it with Sci-Fi or was it with Sam?
With Sam.
Yeah, so I think that was episode 207. So anyway, we forecast it. So yeah. Barkarati on fire. That record wouldn't have happened without it.
No, I agree with you. And you've got to admit there's quite a few people on board that have been on the show. So
the reverse curse. We've got a world record.
Well, it wouldn't have mattered who got it.
We
were on
a
world record. Yeah, we're on a call anyway.
Yeah,
we had every
because
one
we
of them.
interview so many people.
We've been on the last. Actually, we've got
It's a law of averages.
Yeah, we've got them all. Oh dear. The reverse curse is strong.
Covered all bases. The reverse curse wins the 24-hour trial.
Love it.
Rightio,
What
boys.
else?
Last one. We saw an article during the week published on Scuttlebutt, Tucker Thompson, where he spoke about, are we pushing the kids too hard, pretty much? This was my interpretation. Tell me if I'm wrong. We shared it amongst ourselves. Pretty much he spoke about how, and I think we all know Tucker Thompson. He'd be good, actually, to get on the show one day. Anyway, so Tucker, if you're listening, we'll reach out, grab you. Anyway, spoke about his experience.
Sorry, boss. I'll just tell you, he mightn't be listening because he's a bit Terry Tuckered out.
Yeah, here we go. Dad joke of the day. Yeah. We'll just move on. Just leave the funny shit to me, pal. And he spoke about his personal experience with his son.
Yep.
So he was into opties at 9 years old, went through the program, went into whether it was school or college, whatever it was, but basically burnt out by 14 years old.
Yeah.
And they go to turn up to all these regattas, there's coach boats, there's this, there's that, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm saying is, one, everyone go and check out the article by Tucker. And two, his findings were the 3 Fs is what you need. So fun, friends, and fast.
Oh, fast. I thought you were going to say flatulence.
Do we agree on that? I think we do. Well, from my side, I totally agree.
Yeah. Have a blast around, because ultimately you want to compete against your friends. It's natural within you, but the fun element has to be relate to them. You know, like it's fun.
Well, I think it's also a bit to do with your age as well, and especially that kind of opti age, call it the 8-year to 12, 14-year-olds. It's got to be fun, man.
Yep.
Like it's the fast bit. Actually, that was kind of maybe that's to me the give and take a little bit. By all means, going fast is cool, and that's kind of the cool thing these days. But maybe that's not the be all and end all. But sailing with your mates, playing British Bulldogs on the lawns or the beach after yachting, stuff like that. That's where it's all at.
But if you rewind the clock and go back to when you were sailing, those sorts of boats, there's nothing like going along next to your mate and, and beating that person, beating him in fun. because it's, you feel good and you're going fast. That's what it's about. And that grows all that stuff.
That's the rainbow, of course. Super fast, 100%. But Jordan, you've any key thoughts behind this?
I mean, I'm 100%. I've said this 100 all the time, 100% of the time. Every time a parent asks me how they get their kid to be good, just make them enjoy the sport. They've just got to have fun on boat because they're developing natural feel for the boat. Let them go and have fun. Sail. Just let them go sailing, mucking around.
Yeah, whether it's a windsurfer, Opti, Holdy, Rainbow, Pacer, Sharpie. Hang on, Laser. I'm just talking about me for the minute.
But, like I remember as a kid, we used to, when I was an instructor at 15, we'd get the training boats out and we'd get get a spinnaker from a much bigger boat and tie it to the masthead and go out in 25 knots and do all this sort of stuff, with your mates, and we'd capsize and do end over ends and all sorts of stuff, but that's having fun. Just
similar to and bringing up Nick last week, same deal with the Opti. Like he put a spinnaker on it. Just having fun in boats, having fun. Yeah, so it's all about fun. And that's what we're all about, actually. Ironic, as a matter of fact. Ironic.
Just carrying it on.
Now, anything else from you, Mr. Box?
No, negative on hot time.
Okay. I'll bring up a couple of items. I want to congratulate the International Canoes Australian podium for the Australian Championships. Jeff Kahn in first, Craig Phillips in second, Laurie Wilson in third. I think it was sailed in Port Stephens at the Port Stephens Regatta. Now,
did they not look good?
Let me tell you, listeners, if you have a podium with 2 out of the 3 people standing on the podium wearing Barkarati T-shirts, you are going to get coverage on Barkarati. I can guarantee
100%, my friends.
In fact, I'm quite happy to do it. We're going to do a session on the International Canoe because they're crazy little things. Anything where you can take your park bench out with you and have a sleep.
Mate, you'd be going to have a sleep on one of those bastards. Let me tell you, absolute rocket ships, and you're on the edge all the time, in more ways than one. Good on those guys.
We love that photo, and so just wanted to give those boys a mention and congratulations, and very, very happy to do that. The other thing I wanted to mention, our little mate Xavier Dower on the little Aussie lap, who's trying to break the record. He is in front of the record time still. He's nearly halfway around.
What?
He's just off. If I have a look, I'm on the map.
Stopped in for a pill from Broome.
Yeah, he's gone past Broome. He's past Karratha, and he's nearly at Exmouth.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's got pretty good conditions. I think he's going reasonably well. He's doing
he's made it through the worst of it.
Yeah. So
stuff. Now he's going to have the opposite end of the spectrum. He's going to have upwind. He's going to have hard work from down to the bottom.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So, the record will tighten up on him a bit here. But anyway, we just wanted to wish him well because I know he listens in religiously. Wish him well, mate. We're watching. We're checking in.
Word has it he comes back to land, closer to land to get mobile range so he can download an episode. He's got. So if you do see a maneuver once a week where he hits land, generally about midnight on a Sunday, he's heading in just to download the next episode.
I can actually tell you he's got Starlink on board, so he's just getting it fine. He's getting it straight off the internet.
So many positive responses from Starlink,
the Kiwis in their little America's Cup training boats hit 57 knots this week.
Negative 50.7. There was a typo.
No.
Running around the world of sailing. Correct. 50.7 in a ACE in the 40.
Oh. Still quick. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No,
but I hate to disappoint you.
I was devastated. Yeah, I was just thinking, wow, sphincter tightening maneuver.
And then imagine just dialing straight into the Dino from that. Oh, hello.
Yeah, hello. The other one, the Dino, is that what we're calling it now? Sailing Champions League, the Asia Pacific Finals. We mentioned it last weekend. Yeah, so congratulations. Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron, led by Zach West.
Zach West, young
had
fella.
the win. beating out the old fellow, Robbie Jewson. Now, for those who love our show, Robbie Jewson is Fritz that we talk about, is one of our favourite human beings on the planet. And he's a very funny man and a super, super talented sailor. Taught him everything I know. And then Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club, Daniel Kemp in third. First female helm was Mina Ferguson from Wallara. And so for anybody not from Australia, Woolahara. And then the first youth team was the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron. Now, I checked in with Mark Turnbull, who is the king of the castle for the Sailing Champions League, and the Open World Championships, the teams that are being sent, because there's a Pacific one, Australian one, and I've forgotten the other. The teams that are being sent in the Open are Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron, Cruising Yacht Club South Australia, and Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club. And it's the same in the youth as well. Exactly the same clubs got there. So, and that event is in Travemünde in Germany, northern Germany.
Well, as a matter of fact, the Open and the youth are at two different times. The youth are in September in Kiel. There's two different events going on. Obviously being pretty close to the CYC side. I mean, this is a phenomenal, like from a club point of view for us, Cruising Yacht Club South Australia. This is phenomenal to have two teams who have the possibility to represent. And by the end of next week, we'll see how that's all going to happen from a logistics point of view, funding point of view, and a whole lot of things. Because it's not just a small little task to be taken on. You're not just jumping on the Rex flight over to Port Lincoln. You're she's a big task. So
and you're sending Fritz to Germany.
Yeah, well, this is the ironic thing in itself. I've said that twice this episode. That's a little silly. But yeah, Fritz, he may never come back. He might run into some long lost relatives.
I've been to Travemünde.
Bunker down.
The thing about Travemünde, it's an interesting place if you're a young lad, and it's got this big, beautiful.
Oh, hello.
Or Fritz, yeah, lovely grassy area that just goes right to a canal, and that canal must be about 20 meters deep, right next to where you're standing, and it's there's a few inches of clearance. It's a big shipping lane right there, but that little step down into the water is only a few meters away from the beer house, and yes, it can be.
I'm just wondering. Like, obviously, Fritz is a bit of a nickname for a German in Australia, of which will probably be deemed un-PC. So that'll be gone soon. So I wonder what they call Fritz in Germany. Just fella. Oi.
Mate.
Mate. I'm not saying any of the words that popped into my head.
No, well done to all involved. The footage that came back from the whole thing, and this is only going to grow and grow. We love this form of sailing, and we think this is something that all clubs should be part of and get behind it. No matter where you're from or how you get involved, just do it, make it happen.
Yep, Mark Turnbull organising it. So good man, great man. Happy to back him all the way. Get into it and give. It's a good fun one for youngsters. Everyone gets a chance. So cool. Good on him too. I think that's us, boys.
Awesome, nice work.
Have you got your? Just steal that guitar behind you on the wall, just to take us out, BP.
There is one actually over on.
Just take. Yeah, take that.
Here it comes. Look, there we go.
Yeah.
You got to help her.
No, it's all right.
Take that shot glass that you've just had a whiskey from.
No, all good. Great chat today, lads, and looking forward to getting home actually at the end of the week. So see you soon.
Bravo.
All right, mate.
See you, mate.
Go in peace.
See you, boys.
Have a great week, everyone. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Nothing in front but